Welcome back to the A4Q Testing Summit Online Edition 2024. With me today, we have Kramer, who works for Smart Testing, a French tool vendor specializing in smart AI-powered testing solutions. Anne frequently speaks at conferences and provides professional training. Today, she's with us to talk to us about using generative AI in testing, good practices and risks.
Hi, welcome. Yes, I want to talk about a little bit about my own experience with generative AI in testing. Because I started to dive into the topic beginning of this year when we started to set up a training for using generative AI for testing. And well, I worked with ChatGPT and other large language models, and I found it extremely emotionally tiring. It was a real roller coaster of emotions because sometimes you think, "Oh, wow, that's great! That's really the best thing that will happen in the working environment in the next years," and then you are so frustrated. And with the time, learning more about the topic, I found out that my biggest problem was that I was really ignoring things. And therefore, I thought it would be a good idea to present what you really need to know so that you are more happy with using generative AI. So that's my motivation for today's talk. And yeah, what are we really talking about? Well, first of all, you know this figure. Yeah, AI, artificial intelligence, is the main term. It's a branch of computer science that focuses on creating systems capable of performing tasks that would normally require human intelligence. That's the definition ChatGPT gives, and since this is an AI, let's suppose that's correct. Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence using static algorithms and training data to perform tasks without explicit instructions. For example, neural networks are a form of machine learning. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning, which using neural networks, but with multiple layers. Deep learning is there it starts to become spooky because we no longer understand what happens in the hidden layers. And then came the transformer algorithm, a specific deep learning architecture using tokens, embedding, the attention mechanism, and quite a lot of other technical things that I'm even unable to explain in detail. But the transformer algorithm paved the way for generative AI, for large language models like ChatGPT. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Transformer because of the algorithm, pre-trained because ChatGPT crawled the internet and Wikipedia and so on and used a lot of data to learn from it, and generative because it's able to generate artifacts. This is not only text, you can also generate videos or pictures and many more. So we talk about generative AI, or more precisely about generative AI and the conversation mode, so conversational AI, because there are two possibilities to use AI and to use large language models. You can either call it through an API, a programming interface, or you can use it with a chatbot bot like the one OpenAI offers to us for ChatGPT. And the third important thing is to know is that you have the base LLM. The base LLM is really this algorithm and the training data and capable of doing things. But this to have an LLM, a large language model that is really able to answer to instructions, to prompts, there is another lot of work to do. All those work, Anthropic, OpenAI, Perplexity, etc., all those providers do to avoid that the LLM gives you instructions on how to build a bomb, that there's no bias in the answers, that the answer is correct, and so on. This is an instruction-tuned LLM. So we talk about generative AI, the chat mode, and instruction-tuned LLM. And before I continue, I want to warn you about something, because this is also something I experienced myself. We all know that ChatGPT, especially the free version, is using data to train itself. And then you think, well, that's not good. Where I have company sensitive information, so let's buy a commercial version of. Let's get this register for it and pay a little bit for the abonnement, and then I'm safe. But that's not true, because by default, ChatGPT 4 and 4.0, the Omni, the newest one, they also use the data for learning. You really have to go in and select the temporary chat here to make sure that they just store it for legal reasons, I get, or for safety purposes, as they say, and not that they're not keeping in mind your data. In my opinion, this is very important to know. And each time they change the interface, check again, because they like to reset it to the default value, which is take the data to learn. Okay, testing in the age of AI. We have generative AI, and it offers a lot of possibility. But concretely, for testing, what can a generative AI do for me as a tester? First of all, it is pretty good at summarizing text. This is one of the tasks that these models have been trained for. And for testing, this is very nice, because it helps you to get into the topic, especially when you're a consultant, you're new in the project, you have to understand what happens, what the existing tests are doing. So ask the ChatGPT, or I use ChatGPT as a synonym. But you can also use models from Mistral or Gemini or others. But use them. You can use them to summarize the text and to get a first idea of what you have to do, for example, of the requirement specification. Next, we can use generative AI to create test cases. It is a good thing to let them suggest test cases. It makes it easier to start. And we will see in a moment how it looks like. I will do some live demos. I can also use generative AI to improve existing test cases. I can ask it to look for redundancies or to parameterize existing tests to make it more similar in the wording and so on. I can use it to generate test data. I can use it to create test scripts. For example, ask it to translate the manual test specification into Python or Gherkin or Selenium scripts. And last but not least, I can use it to understand what the test results are, especially when I have an automated test execution. I get long reports and log files, and I may use generative AI to extract what is really important from those logs. There's one topic which is not on the list, but which is really very convincing. It can generate documentation, for example, of source code. When I heard that for the first time, I said, well, yeah, generative AI, that's the solution. Developers don't like to document what they are doing, but finally I can just take the AI and generate the documentation. This is really the future. So I want to show you an example. Here we have a screenshot. A screenshot is from, I'll show you the application because I will use it several times. This is a web application called Logogenie, which allows you to create logos for your company. And you may enter here a name, you may enter a tagline, and you may enter some keywords. The company tagline is not mandatory. And then you can filter, and here you have the different possibilities to filter. And I took a screenshot from that. And now let's take an LLM. Let's take, in this example, ChatGPT 4, and upload the screenshot. And then I have prepared my prompts. I just have to select it. My prompt is, the screenshot shows a range of possible values in the Your Industry drop-down box. Analyze the screenshot and then identify all possible values. Answer in the form of a list, and then I start with 2 examples. When I send that, I get a beautiful list. And if I compare with the initial screenshot, here it starts with most popular, agriculture, environment, animals. Well, there's and the last one is transport, cars, logistic. It even completed consulting here. In the screenshot, this was cut, but my AI assistant completed it. This is if you have a long list of values and you want to test them all. This is a very easy way to get your test data. I want to show another example, which is slightly more complicated. I have to check that our software validates the social security number SSN according to the rules described below. Please propose possible test cases. The first rule is that the SSN follows a specific format. There are 3 digits called the area number, 2 digits called the group number, and 4 digits, which are the serial number, and there are dashes between those 3 parts. Then there are specific rules for the area number. The group number may not be 00, and the serial number may not be 0 either. So let's take this and go back to our large language model. I have to check that our software validates. It's exactly the same text as on the slide, and I send it. Let's see what happens. And you can see it checks the valid with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 9, and it checks a lot of different things. I have the impression that it learned my trials. It checks, for example, a serial number with the letters, with the incorrect format, with extra characters or digits, more missing dashes, for example. It checks the rules here, and the lowest available. It even goes for the boundary values in this case. So it's really a rather complete, and it looks quite correct at first glance as an answer. So it's really great. It can be really, really helpful. But it can also be extremely frustrating. And really, in the beginning of this year, I felt like the person here on the figure, because first of all, I had the impression that she fobs me off with general blah blah. This has improved a little bit. The models are no longer so verbose, but in the beginning of this year, this was still the case. So that's not really a problem, because it's quite easy to tell the LLM in the prompt that limit your answer to 3 sentences or to 200 characters, for example. That's easy. But there was a second problem in what I wrote there, because I thought of the AI as she. I even argued she's intelligent, so she must be female. But this led me into thinking that artificial intelligence is intelligent. That's not exactly true. The way it works is that it looks for semantic similarities. It is just extremely good at finding out what is the next probable word. And this, as it has enormous training data, this is quite close to what we would do also. But it has no real logical understanding of what it is doing. So I really force myself today to not to think of it as a person, even if the dialogue corresponds to real dialogue with a human being. It lures you into the impression that you have something intelligent on the other side, even if it's a robot. But it's better to think of it as a machine, as a robot. So say it and not she. The next thing that really drove me crazy is that it started well. It started as I showed you. The first shot is usually a rather good one. And then when you start saying, please transform this into BDT Gherkin format, then it somehow loses the plot. And I ran into this problem quite a lot of time until I understood that large language model has only limited memory. It works with what is called the context window. And the number of tokens, which is slightly more than the words, is important. When you go beyond the limit of the tokens from the context window, then the LLM starts to forget things. They, as it is an instruction-tuned LLM, they try to keep the most important one. But especially when you say, no, that was wrong, please do not do that, you emphasize what is wrong, and therefore the LLM goes into the direction you do not want, because that's what's still in the context window. So the context window of GPT 3.5 Turbo is 16,385 tokens. ChatGPT 4o has nearly 8 times more. It's 128,000 tokens. So you're safer when using the larger models. We will come to that in a moment. Then the next thing is the AI doesn't do what I asked for. And sometimes it really starts off in the wrong direction. And I learned that it is quite helpful just to close it and to try a new chat, or even another LLM. That is also sometimes helpful. And the last one is that I had a lot of problems accepting that the answer is not reproducible. That it is not reproducible for 2 reasons. First of all, it is the LLMs, they have what they call the temperature. That's a hyperparameter, which is a measure of the creativity. So the answers are not, it's not wanted that they give the same answer each time. But even with 0 temperature, apparently there's a problem related to race conditions. So it's not completely understood, but the 100% reproducibility is not there yet. Okay, what do I have to do to get it right? So I'm juggling with my windows. First of all, the most important thing is the prompt engineering, the structured prompt. A good prompt has several elements. You have to give context. You should give the role, the instruction, of course, that's obvious, the output format, and if it's applicable, you should also give constraints and data. What does this mean? Well, this was the wrong direction. Take this one. You are my assistant for writing test scenarios in Gherkin format based on a given requirement. The system to be tested is the Logogenie web application with a link to the website. You never know, maybe it learned about it. I will give you a requirement. Your task is to create 1 or more Gherkin scenarios. First, determine all equivalence partitions to be tested and suggest exemplary values. Make sure that both valid and invalid equivalence partitions are covered. Explain your approach. Then create the Gherkin scenarios in a feature file .feature. Answer in the following format: scenario, given when then, requirement. And then the requirement, which is that you have to enter the 3 fields with a maximum limit of characters and whether they are optional or mandatory. So in this prompt, we have all those elements. First of all, we have the context. We are testing the Logogenie web application. We have the role. You are my assistant for writing test scenarios in Gherkin format. So you're an expert in Gherkin. Then there's the instruction, and a rather detailed instruction in this case. We have a constraint because we want to achieve full coverage of the equivalence partitions. We have the answer format. And in this case, we even impose the answer that the answer is in given when then. And last but not least, we have data. So when we have a look at our LLM, for example. I'll try another example. Let me enter it here. You are my helpful assistant for the creation of software tests. We use decision tables as a test design technique. I will give you a description of the product to be tested. I want you to create a decision table. Refrain from creating rows with 2 or more invalid parameters, which is a constraint. I have an example here of my equivalence of my decision table, and then the description, which is different rules for an alcohol shop. When can I return the beverage if it's still in the original packaging, if I have the receipt, if I haven't opened the bottle, if it's not personalized, depending on whether I'm a registered user or non-registered user, I can get money back or just a voucher. And if my name was on the bottle because it was configured as a gift, then I am not able to send it back. Let's see the result. It looks well. Of course, we have to check. We really have to check whether that's fine. And at first glance, I can't see a larger problem here. Maybe this one, bottle is sealed, the original packaging received is there, it's a registered yeah, but it's I did not return it on time, so therefore no return or no refund. So I can't find a problem in this prompt. It works, but as you can see, I did a lot of effort in the prompt engineering part here. So because there are other things you may observe in the prompt I just presented you. For example, I pay attention to using my terms consistently to make it easier for the LLM to favor associations. Because as I said, it's not intelligent. It doesn't know what a requirement is, but it knows that the term requirement is this here to the top is the same as the term requirement here to the bottom. So if I talk about a given requirement here, and then I give data with the requirement as a title, then the LLM knows that the next is most probably the requirement description. Also, I repeat important aspects to enhance the focus. So I want to have a test based on equivalence partitioning. And I say it twice to enhance the focus, because with that I repeat it makes it more important. I incorporated into the prompt the request for explanation. Explain your approach and make sure that both valid and invalid equivalence partitions are covered. Here I make use of this instruction tuning. I force the AI to check again. And then the AI, if it went wrong, will discover that the answer was wrong and will regenerate a good answer. Explain your approach forces the AI to go more slowly and to proceed step by step. Sometimes you see that it is recommended to give the AI time to think. And that is what I mean with explain your approach. This gives the AI time to think. I also paid attention to the grammar and the spelling, because you can have typos that have no impact, but you can also have typos that lead the LLM in the wrong direction, because it changes the probability of the next word. So for example, if I type explain error phrasing, because the F and the E are not, or the characters are too close, I get an explanation of error fuzzing. Which is maybe not what I wanted to have. And that's optional and can be disputed whether it's helpful or not, but I do it systematically. I use delimiters For example, I like those three dashes here, or not dashes, those three symbols, because it makes it easier for me to understand what I wrote. And if it makes it easier for me to understand, I guess it's also easier for the AI. But when you have terms, put them in quotes, for example. This is a sort of delimitator that makes it easier for the AI to determine where the term begins and where the instruction ends. This is really the basics. When you go further, you get to the N-shot prompting. N is a number and stands for 0, 1, or anything else. Zero-shot prompting means that I don't have an example at all. In my first prompts, I didn't show any examples. For example, in this one with the social security number, I did not provide any example. But in the one with my equivalence petition, I already provided an example. So this is one-shot prompting. And you can even push this further and do several. If one example is not sufficient to get your LLM giving the right answer, you may give as many examples as needed. And the last one is that you should not ask the AI to do everything at once. Divide the tasks, divide them in the dialogue. Follow a certain logical reasoning, which is called chain of thought. The LLMs, they all implement a sort of chain of thought, or also called chain of, also the chain of verification, where you systematically, after each step, ask, is this answer correct? Well, it's done in a more complex, more difficult way, but there's a verification after each step. In my case, in my prompt, I asked the LLM to first think about equivalence petitions and then to create the table or the test cases, which is already a division. If you do it in several tasks, in several prompts, then you have the opportunity to see whether the result is correct and to correct it also. Yeah. So I talked about the big chances and the huge opportunities AI is providing, or generative AI is providing us, but we also have to talk about risks. Well, risk related to the use of AI. The first one we already talked about. It's cybersecurity. But there's more than just having the data used as training data. You can also attack an AI, and for example, try to make it reveal the training data, which may be sensitive, or try to ask a poem to write a bomb. There are quite a lot of different attacks, and this is a topic in itself, quite similar to cybersecurity. The attacks look also similar, including that AI makes it more dangerous. For example, when we get spam. Currently, we recognize the spam because it's in the wrong language, and there are so many grammar glitches in it. But the AI is able to write a spam mail that we will not recognize as a spam. And the probability that we will start to click on virus infected links is increasing, is strongly increasing in the moment. Then there's always this topic of bias and ethics. Biases, I would say, is not so much a topic for testing, apart from maybe that when you have training data, have a look at that the anti-bias protection is not creating test data which are no longer representative for your users, for example. And of course, the environmental risks. Those servers are using a lot of energy and also water for cooling. So when we all start working with LLMs, then we will drive the CO2 emission, the carbon footprint will be pretty bad, and it will this will increase our climate problems we already have in a quite a way. I also see a risk in the decline through progress. First of all, the decline of the models, because the models are learning from the internet, and if the internet is full of text written by the models, then we will get some deterioration of the genetic material in a sense. And also, we are changing. There are really strange effects of women marrying an AI hologram, for example. We should be beware of keeping our knowledge and not giving everything away to the AI, which one day we will no longer be able to check because we no longer know how to do it. Okay, I come to my end. So what should we do? We should use structured prompts. This is really very important. We should divide tasks, provide examples, always check the results. And if it's going in the wrong direction, start a new conversation. Think of also, there's a rule, new context, new topic, new chat, new conversation. Don't expect miracles. Don't trust blindly, but also do not give up. It is really helpful. That's my main message. I also have a slide about smart testing. We are a small company located here in Besançon, and I'm sitting here in Germany near Nuremberg. Yeah. If you're interested in more, we also have the complete training from which this was an abstract excerpt. And then I would be glad to get in contact with you. Please write me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn. I think it's easy to find me. That's it.
Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation from you, Anne. I believe we have a couple of questions from our audience today. I'll get started on reading through them. In my experience, it takes a lot of effort to write a good prompt. Do we really save that much time if we all do it?
Yeah, I even said it myself that writing a good prompt, I mean, all those prompts I showed, they were the result of an iterative process. And this is also the way you should approach. Try with a simple one and improve it over time. And for a company, I strongly recommend that you start collecting this knowledge about how to write good prompts. So if you really work always with Gherkin scenarios and you have manual tests and you want to translate them to Gherkin scenarios, then someone will write the prompt and all the others can use it. So find a way of creating prompt libraries that are shared within your group. And then this will avoid you to start again from scratch all the time. But you also get more used to it. You also get the habit of providing examples, for example. And I always start with, I am doing this, and you are my helpful assistant for doing something. It really has become a habit for me.
Oh, thank you so much. We have another question here. You have pointed out the environmental risks, but what can I do as a user if I want to act responsibly?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit that when I presented this topic for the first time, someone said that that's just lip serving. We all talk about the environmental risk, but we change nothing. And but I have to say that I try to act responsibly. For example, I always the size of the model is important for the energy consumption. More it is larger, more it takes energy. And this is true not only for training, but also for operating the model. So really, each time I have a prompt, I think about, is it necessary to use the large model of Mistral, to mention another one than ChatGPT, or may the smaller one do? Do I really need a very precise answer, or can it be creative? And sometimes it's even welcome if the answer is creative. So I use GPT-3.5, for example, when it's not so important that the answer is completely precise, or if I already know that my prompt is giving good results with GPT-3.5 too. I try to use the small models, I stopped generating images. I go back to Pixabay and take the commercially free of license images because generating an image is always like recharging a smartphone. And that's a lot if you generate 3 images and because you do not like the first one, it's not necessary. And I still translate my text with DeepL. And sometimes even if it's just one word, I look it up in the dictionary, online, of course, but but I do not use ChatGPT for translation. It's pretty good at translating. I only use it when I have doubts. But I take DeepL, which is a deep learning architecture, and it is less energy consuming.
Thank you so much. Those are really some helpful pointers. We have one more question here. ChatGPT is not the only option. Which other LLMs would you recommend?
Yeah, of course, ChatGPT is not the only option. We probably I got used to it because it was the first one I started to work with. I would recommend to have a look at it, a closer look. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to generate scripts, for example, then something like CodeLlama will be better. May even give better results. So you can get those platforms like POE, P-O-E, that provide access to different LLMs, and then you can try a little bit and find out which one is the better. And this one is also, you have the free versions on POE, but you can also have the commercial versions. Again, you have to pay for it. So this is my recommendation. Find the one you like most. It also, it's a bit linked to what we said before with cybersecurity and so on. Some will prefer Mistral, for example, because it's French and it's at least in Europe. But whether the servers are still all in Europe, I have no idea. And by the way, coming back to the environmental risks, it's also not the best idea to have the servers always at one spot, because if we want to have a cheap energy, then we should run the server there where the sun is shining, so all over the world following the sun. That's physically not very precise, but it's not the sun that's turning, it's the earth.
Fantastic. I believe we have a chance for one last question. You presented the use of LLMs in the chat mode. Aren't we more likely to use AI? Aren't we more likely to use the AI agents in the future?
That's a question from an expert. Huh? It's a large topic. AI agents, yes, AI, to explain, AI agents are AI using generative AI, but they also have the possibility to call external tools to look things up in the internet. For example, the weather today, or which the large language models we talked about till now aren't able. They have a cutoff and they don't know the weather of today. AI agents will be present in a lot of software, and I think I really think this is the future. We will have it in development tools. We will have it in when we do our tax declaration, for example. They will be present everywhere, but it's more a topic for those who write the software, because you really have to program them. So we will use it. This will be the future, but we will use it indirectly because we use the product that integrate them. I think I should stop there.
And thank you again for such an insightful presentation. To all of our viewers, I encourage you to stay tuned. Our next session will be on the hour, every hour until the end of the day. Be sure to check into our website and vote for Anne in our poll for our best presentation and best speaker, and look forward to seeing you.
Please do that.
Please do. And thank you again so much for your excellent presentation. And I look forward to rewatching your session and seeing you next time.
Thank you very much.